All right, welcome, my friends, to episode 667 of Extreme Health Radio. Thanks, guys, for being here. We have a really great show with you today with, whoops, let me turn off. I always forget to turn off my audio on YouTube when we stream, but this is episode 667, so we're going to put a lot of links and coupon codes, all kinds of cool stuff for you guys to look at extremehealthradio.com/667. I hope you guys are doing great today, this Friday. I hope you're all hanging in there with this crazy nonsense that's going on in our culture today. Absolute nonsense that's being pumped out by the mainstream media. And our job is to give you guys some solutions, whether it's natural remedies to things or any kind of thing like that, where we can give you information that's going to empower you and maybe open your eyes up to options and therapies or ideas that you've never thought of before that you can then go explore and gain some power from. So we're going to be introducing Mary Tocco in just a second. We have a great lineup of shows coming up. We broadcast every Friday morning at 10:45 a.m. Pacific. At least we try. 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. Next week we have Chris Wark from Chris Beat Cancer. He's another guest that was on, when we first started the show in 2012, I think, that we're going to have on again in his journey through beating cancer naturally. So that would be really cool. Dr. Marisol Tejero, naturopathic doctor, will be talking about the mystic medicine of castor oil. And we're going to have mineral expert Morley Robbins talking about the synergistic relationship between iron, copper, metabolism, and immunometabolism, and minerals in general. And then George Wiseman after that, talking about Brown's gas, hydrogen, all kinds of cool stuff. And then Dr. Seth Gerlach, we're going to get into, with him, the vaccine ingredients. So that'll be pretty interesting, right? I bet you a lot of these ingredients and vaccines you probably may have never heard of before, and the damage they cause. So we're going to talk with him about that. And let's see, let me read Mary's bio, because it's been a while since we had her on the show. We started the show in August of 2012, and I think she was episode 4, if my memory is correct. And her daughter, Dr. Renee Tocco Hunter, was on episode 34, a long time ago. She's been in the natural health field for 40 years. Been working in holistic functional medicine, chiropractic health field. She's working as a natural health advocate for people who want to improve their health by consultation. But today we're going to talk about something that she created this May of this year, which was the Sheriff's Plan for Action for Citizens. And not a lot of people realize that the sheriff in your county has more power than the president of the United States. And you can get into contract law and the presidency and all this kind of crazy stuff, but just know that your local county sheriff has more power than the president does, or any organization for that matter. We're going to talk about what that means and what you can do, but we're also going to talk about vaccines. So she put together this whole plan for citizens to protect their rights by informing their sheriff about how they feel about these unconstitutional mandates coming from the federal or local governor. So this is going to be a cool show. Let me introduce her and bring up her audio. Mary, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Great to be back. It's been too many years.
I know. Like I said, that was episode, I think, 4 and 34. First of all, how's your daughter doing, Dr. Hunter, Dr. Renee Tocco Hunter?
She's doing amazing. She has an integrative wellness center here in Goose Creek, South Carolina, which is just outside of Charleston. And she is almost a nurse practitioner. She's been working on that now for a couple years. And we're doing awesome. And it's all about healing the body naturally. That's what we're really focused on at her clinic.
That's awesome. And do you work with her at her clinic as well, or is that something she does on her own?
I actually worked with her up until about 6 months ago when I decided it was time to semi-retire and get more involved in this whole, vaccine issue, the sheriff, all of their rights. I'm really kind of an activist. And I just semi-retired, but I'm always working.
Gosh, it's kind of weird, right? When you have a passion like this, and when you look into the information that you and I both know, and you realize what's actually going on, it's kind of hard to retire, isn't it? It's kind of difficult.
Well, you can't. What I do is more like a calling. I feel like I was called in to do vaccine research 40 years ago, and I was called in to do public lectures and education starting in 1995. This isn't something I would have chosen to do because, number one, people consider it politically incorrect, and it's not always a popular stand, but I am passionate about just getting people to stop and think and use their mind to seek out the truth about what's going on out there. And that's why I created the the Sherriff Plan of Action for Citizens.
It's funny because when I was considering having you back on, I thought, yeah, we should get, you back on and talk about all this stuff. This was before all this COVID stuff, and we're kind of booked out a few months, and so then all this stuff started happening, and I'm like, okay, we got to get you back on, because this is like, talk about a whole other level of vaccine. Because a while back, I did a video in our academy about how to mitigate the damaging effects of vaccines, because there's a lot of parents, right, who have one person believes in vaccines, the other person doesn't. Maybe they're separated. And so I did a video, how do you mitigate the damaging effects of vaccines if you're sort of, as a parent, unwillingly have to get your kid vaccinated, right? But I never thought this could happen to us now with this whole COVID thing. It's crazy.
It is, and we do have the power to stop it. But as you know, most Americans have been in apathy for years. They go along with the flow. They aren't necessarily thinking about everything that they do. They're just what we call sheep. And I don't mean to offend anybody, but they've been in apathy. And I've been screaming for years, wake up, wake up, wake up. This is coming. And this is something I've been fighting to avoid for 30 years, actively fighting this. And now it's here. And so this is almost like the last opportunity that we have as citizens to get out there and take our rights back that are being slowly taken away from us.
Mm-hmm. And it's happening at such a micro kind of level, right? You start seeing these little things. First it's masks, then it's going to be tying to all the benefits and privileges like driving. It's just one thing after another, and you can see what road we're on, right?
Absolutely. Very, very scary. I'm not afraid of, I don't let fear control me, but I fear for my children and my grandkids. I have 9 grandbabies, and they have to grow up in this world. And I want them to have the same freedoms and the same rights that I had while raising my 5 children. And in the state of Michigan, where I lived for years, we had the right to do no vaccines and still get in school, and there was no issue. And so now all of that is changing rapidly in front of us.
Are there still states where you can do that? Because I know here in California it's required, but are there states where you don't have to be vaccinated?
Absolutely.
Okay.
When I was in Michigan, I was part of a group called Michigan Opposing Mandatory Vaccines. I was the director of vaccine research and education for them. And I did lectures all over the United States and Canada, empowering people to look into this. So anyway, long story short, we still have 3 exemptions available in Michigan because of that group, which is now called Michigan for Vaccine Choice. They are very, very active. And they have been keeping an eye on the laws, and that's why they still have those rights. But as you know, in California, look what's happened in California. People are moving out of California by the dozens every day because of the laws that are going on, that are being passed there.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I was doing a call with our Academy members this morning, a private Zoom call, and one of them was sharing how the schooling system is so crazy these days, where the kids have to, if they want to play on like the monkey bars at school now, they have to be all 6 feet in a line, one going after another, and then after one goes and plays on it, they have to like sanitize the bars down. And it's I was just thinking to myself, this isn't. I mean, the whole point of monkey bars and kids playing is just going crazy and everyone going on stuff. It's really weird, isn't it?
I find it absolutely unacceptable. And parents need to stand up to this. Listen, we live with millions of bacteria around us. We have them inside of us. They're everywhere. They play a very critical role in keeping us healthy. And to raise our children under this fear of a bug or a germ that you cannot see, and then raising them that this is normal. This is not the new normal. I don't accept the new normal. I won't wear a mask. Honestly, I have gone into stores around my whole neighborhood. I was out today. I refuse to wear a mask. And when they stop and say, "Man, you need a mask," I say, "No, I don't. I have a medical exemption because I know what wearing a mask can do to your body." And they don't challenge me here. But in some states, they want to fine you. Parents, we have to stop, and we have to start standing up against this. It's absolutely crazy.
It's nuts that you've been in this, for 40 years, and you've been getting sort of this pushback for 40 years of all your work, and up until now, it's been relatively kind of the fringe a little bit, right? Where I'm sure you got some
Yes.
some pushback, but it wasn't like it is now. And so for what you were just saying is so true. Like we all have to, now we're going to have to start standing up for our rights. You've been doing it for 40 years, but it's getting to the point now where we all have to start standing up. We can't take this anymore, you know?
We can't. And what's interesting is there's a meeting December 3rd last year, 2019, of the World Health Organization. And I encourage everybody to look it up if you can. There's videos on YouTube about it. But they admitted in there that the anti-vaccine movement is growing by 500%, and that the doctors, mainstream doctors, are now losing faith in the vaccine program because they do not have the science to provide to basically support what they're doing out there with vaccinations. So it's pretty, yes.
What's the name of that video?
So,
how can people find that?
I follow a gentleman by the name of Del Bigtree. He has a program called The Highwire. He was recently just pushed off of YouTube. They're trying to censor him on Facebook as well. But Del Bigtree, The Highwire, he has his own website. And if you go on there, you can put in WHO lying to WHO, meaning the WHO is lying to who, or the WHO is lying to you, maybe. But you can look it up. There's videos of it. And but they actually admit in there that, number one, there are no long-term safety studies on vaccines, that they never, this is very important information people have to get. They have never studied the systemic effects of vaccines in the body. They have only looked at the local effects. So if you go in and you get a shingles vaccine or an MMR vaccine, they have only studied what happens in your arm or your thigh. They have never looked at the effects of these vaccines systemically in the body.
Wow. That's crazy.
That is, go on.
It's absolutely crazy. You know, the doctor that we sort of partnered with for the Extreme Health Academy, Dr. John Bergman, you probably know who he is. He's seen a lot of people where people actually get like a bone cancer or some sort of cancer on their arm directly where the shot was administered. I mean, that's kind of off what you're saying, but geez, this is incredible.
And that's why they can say vaccine injuries are 1 in 100,000. They're only looking at your arm or your thigh. What they fail to look at is something called, and this is something I put in my new book. And first of all, I tell people all the time, don't trust anything that I say, do your own research. But I have provided so much research for people that, you know, if you just take the time to look at the research I provide, you can learn absolutely everything you can imagine about vaccines that most doctors don't know. But we have a system in our body that is referred to the fluid highway system. And this system was unknown until 2018. Doctors just discovered it in 2018. They're like, oh, we have they call it the fluid highway system of the body. And it's right under the skin. And anything you put in the skin or on the skin gets into that fluid highway system and can circulate it around your whole body.
Wow. Is that fluid highway system, is it like contained in the lymph system? Is it in veins or is it just sort of runs?
It's its own system. It's called the inner system. And it's really, I put it in my book when I found it, when I was doing research for my book. I was like, what? They just now figured this out? But anyway, it's amazing when you consider that they don't even understand the human body, and yet they're throwing all this garbage into the blood and into the muscle of these babies and of people. It's absolutely crazy.
You know, a lot of people are talking, this is kind of a little off subject, but not much really. But, you know, one of the biggest things that I think Trump could do, if he really wanted to, was repeal that 1986 act by then President Ronald Reagan, which basically gives complete immunity from any pharmaceutical companies for any reparations or actions that happens as a result of somebody taking their drugs, even in the prescribed way. If we could repeal that, could you imagine what would happen?
And I think it would literally shut down Big Pharma overnight, because the reason that act went into place was because they were getting sued so badly. They went to the government in 1986 and said, either you protect us from liability or we're going to stop doing research on vaccines. And their biggest, the government's concern was bioweaponry. They were concerned that other countries are going to come up with anthrax or some other bioweapon to use against us. And that's why they did not want these vaccine companies to stop doing research. But in the process, they made it so that you do not, no matter if your child dies, I'm going to close my Skype here.
Oh,
If your
right.
child dies after a vaccination, you can't sue anybody. And that's where all of this problem comes from. As soon as that was passed, vaccines started going crazy. The next thing you know, there's more and more vaccines coming. And now babies get 38 vaccines by the time they're about 18 months of age.
38 by 18 months?
Yes.
Oh my
72
gosh.
by the time they're in high school.
How many shots is that? Is that a series of like 10 or 15 injections and that contain that many?
I'll tell you what it is. Give me a second. I'll open up one of my other PowerPoints because I can literally tell you exactly what's going on. Give me 1 second here.
No
It
worries.
is absolutely unscientific what we are doing to the babies of this country, and we do more vaccines than any other country in the world. So when people stop and think, well, if we're doing more vaccines than any other country in the world, why are our children suffering with so many chronic illnesses?
Mm-hmm.
Vaccines are supposed to be good. They're supposed to be preventive. And yet what we're doing is we are causing children to have chronic illness unlike ever before in the history of humanity.
And people don't realize
So,
too that like some of these issues that children have, cradle cap, asthma, allergies, inhalers, all of these things, people think, oh, this is just my baby, right? But this is not normal. This and most likely is vaccine
no.
damage. People don't put two and two together.
Right. And that's really why I'm so driven and why I created my DVD series. I want parents to have the facts. For example, by the time a child is 18 months of age, they're going to get 3 hepatitis B vaccines, 2 hepatitis A vaccines, 4 DTaP, which is the diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get 3 Hib vaccines and 4 PCV vaccines. So that right there adds up to 38 different vaccinations giving in cocktails. Now, these are combined. And think about this. We know that drugs mixed together is dangerous. But for some reason, drugs, when it comes to vaccines, they're not even considered drugs. They're actually called bioweapons. And that's why they don't go through safety testing. They don't go through safety testing like a drug. And I don't think people realize that.
What's crazy is now they're trying to rush through this vaccine for the I'm gonna call it the cupcake virus for censorship purposes.
Okay.
We'll call it the cupcake
Gotcha.
because it really is basically a cupcake, right? I don't really think that it's that big
Absolutely.
deal. But yeah, so they're trying to do this whole. They're pushing this thing. Now Russia is saying that they have the first one. They're skipping phase 3 trials. They're trying to push this thing through. It's almost like the Cold War all over again, but for vaccines. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Don't they want to push this out? They're looking to do it in the fall and winter, right?
What you have to really look at is who's behind this. And Dr. Fauci is totally tied into the company Moderna, who has the license for the COVID vaccine. He and Moderna will make millions off of that vaccine. That is why he doesn't want hydrochloroquine used. He wants people to remain scared and remain powerless until his vaccine comes out. And that's why he's saying hydrochloroquine is no good. I mean, it all goes back to that. And so you have to kind of follow the money. But this vaccination is an RNA vaccine. It's like nothing we've ever used before. It still uses aborted fetal cell tissue to create it. It's absolutely. I'm shocked that that the people are going along with it. I'm shocked that people are willing to go get it. I met a woman recently who said her son works for the NIH and he volunteered to be one of the first people to get the vaccine in the NIH, but he got paid $2,000 to do it.
Oh my gosh.
So it's crazy.
What's crazy?
This vaccine, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's crazy, the level of sort of depth with which people have taken this blue pill. And, it's so crazy. They're playing us like a fiddle out there. I had someone tell us yesterday, my wife and I, that they can't wait for the vaccine to come out because then we can all get back to normal. I mean, this is like, if you're a marketing company, this is what you love your customers to tell you, right? I mean, this is just programming.
You bet. They've been working on this for years. And the way that they rolled it out and everything is working perfectly for them.
Yeah.
And now we're supposed to trust China with anything. When I found out that they make a majority of our pharmaceutical drugs, I'm like, wake up, America. What are you people thinking?
I know.
And think about this. It's not even just the vaccines, it's everything else that's going on that should make any common sense, well-educated, or even average educated person open up their eyes and go, something is not right here.
Yeah, and we had some people asking earlier, why is Fauci, not speaking highly about hydroxychloroquine? But it's exactly what you just said, right? Because what I thought would be an interesting sort of conspiracy, I guess. What if people like Fauci and Gates and these kind of people, what if they went in the back end and actually invested in those companies and became shareholders in those companies, and then they came out like, this is it. I just thought about this the other day. I thought it'd be a genius play. Because I thought maybe this whole pandemic thing that's going on right now was really supposed to happen in 2030 with the Healthy People 2030 thing. But what if they did this and then they came out and said, you know what, with the vaccine trials, they didn't come out successful. We care about public safety. We care about public health. So what we're going to do now is use the hydroxychloroquine, and then everyone will be scrambling to get that. And if they're investors in that company or whatever company that makes that, they're looked at as good guys because people get to end the pandemic. They get to be, Fauci and Gates get to be the owners of that company or partly owners and make billions. Mm-hmm. People get to go back to work. I don't know. I just thought of this maybe interesting conspiracy theory, but who knows what's going to happen,
We really don't. And this election is very important, and I don't even want to get political, but my prayer is that the next 4 years, we're going to see a whole lot of this exposed, and a little bit more truth is going to come out in all of this. But in the meantime, parents, number one, you have rights. Your rights are being violated. If you send your child to school in a mask and you allow them to sit in a classroom with a mask on, that is going to condition them for the rest of their life. I can remember the day that President John F. Kennedy was shot because it changed my classroom. I was in kindergarten. I can remember it. These kids are going to remember going to school the first day, having to wear a mask or even a shield around their eyes, which is what Fauci wants everyone to do. They're going to remember all of this. It's going to make a huge impression on them. We cannot accept this as the new normal. We have to fight back. And I say, pull your kids out of school. Do whatever you have to do to stop this. And people go, oh, but you got to have your kids educated. You have to get them in school. This is life and death. This is about our civil liberties being completely taken away from us. This is about socialism. And your children will get an education. Give them time. But to me, people need to just say, we're not bringing our kids to school. Forget it. We're just not doing it. Sell a couple cars, sell a couple big screen TVs, do whatever you have to do to get someone to take care of them or to get a teacher in your community to teach them. Do whatever you have to do, people, because the schools are being used as a conditioning tool, as they always have been. And if you allow your children to go into those public schools, you're conditioning them for the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's getting to the point where we have to really look at our own life and figure out, okay, do we, I was telling this on the last show, do we go back to live with mom and dad as older adults? And do we figure out a way to bring our kids home so we can homeschool? Do we sell some things? I mean, this is causing people to really look deep, isn't it, into how they live their life? Because they're sort of partially outsourcing the education of their kid to the government. And this is what happens, right?
Absolutely. I ended up homeschooling 4 of my 5 children. And was it easy? It was challenging. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. My children to this day are self-thinkers. They're problem solvers. They're on top of it. I would say they're top in all of their fields that they're into. They're entrepreneurial. They didn't miss out on anything by not going to public school. And so my point is it can be done, but it has to be a top priority. There were times when we were raising our 5 that I didn't have a car. We had 1 vehicle because my children's education was more important than having 2 cars and a boat in the backyard and a membership at the golf club and that new $5,000 dollar golf set or whatever it is. And I think people need to stop and really think about what's important here and start making lifestyle changes to support what needs to be done.
I couldn't agree with you more. We're with Mary Tocco. Her website is childhoodshots.com. So if you're listening and you want a link to her site, we'll put everything at extremehealthradio.com/667. She's got some really great books that she's just released, which we'll talk about in just a second, but also a great DVD series as well. Sort of cutting and doing the research for you and getting all that information so that you can figure out how to speak with your doctor. But Mary, you said something on a podcast probably that really affected me, and this was probably more than 10 years ago. You were on a radio show, and you said that there's a great book out there called How to Raise Your Child Despite of Your Doctor by Dr. Mendelsohn something. I forget his first name. And Robert Mendelsohn, right. And it's a great book, and you can get it on Amazon for, I don't know, $8 or something. And we bought that book, and we have 2-year-old twin boys right now. And it was really interesting because recently we went to, I won't say the clinic, but they were supposed to be more natural, this pediatrician, right? And I never wanted to go to begin with, but my wife really did. So we went, and on our first visit, they said, okay, for your next visit, we'll talk about vaccinations or something. And my wife and I looked at each other and said, "Well, that's it. We're done. We're not doing that." And if you do the right things, right, people can raise healthy children, right?
I actually raised, along with my ex-husband, the father of my 5, we raised them outside the medical model, which means we only used the emergency medical system for emergencies. We never had a pediatrician. There is no law out there that says you have to have a pediatrician. We utilize a natural form of healthcare, and that's what I write about in my book all the time, about how do we recognize natural immune system development, and what does it look like when it's working, and how do we support that? Because God did not make any mistakes. He equipped us with everything that we need. And so that book is also available on my website because it's one of my favorites. It's like a little Bible from a pediatrician that talks about all the normal childhood illnesses and how to handle them, identify them, and what to do about them. And it's great, a great little book.
Yeah, it's good. It's good because it's really important for people to have resources and to realize there's things that you can do, and you don't have to constantly go to a medical doctor. And my wife and I constantly say, like, what is a medical doctor going to do? They're either going to do tests where they make a ton of money, they're going to give you drugs, or they're going to do some kind of surgery. And if you need surgery, then you obviously broke an arm or a leg, and that's fine to be there, right? But other than that, they're just going to put you in their system and get you in a funnel, right? It's crazy.
Robert Mendelsohn, famous pediatrician, said the purpose of the pediatrician is to indoctrinate your child into a lifelong dependency on medical interventions. And then about the well baby visit, he said the well baby visit is worthless. It's a ritual that does nothing but prepare you to get multiple vaccinations. That's what it is.
Wow. I wonder, he must have caught some flack for that, I imagine.
He did. I actually had a chance to meet him. He wrote several other books that were amazing, and which I have all of his books. But I met him when I was pregnant with my first child, and he was a huge supporter of home birth and natural birth. He was probably 30 years, 40 years before his time. But when he died, we lost a real doctor. He was amazing.
Wow, unreal. It's great to have people out there like that. We are with Mary Tocco. Her website is childhoodshots.com. And we're going to take a little break right now. But when we come back, I think it would be really cool to talk a little bit more, or maybe a little bit about masking, but also let's get into the county sheriff, because not a lot of people realize the power of the county sheriff, and I'm familiar with Sheriff Mack and his work and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that after the break. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. If you are, could you do us a favor? Could you share this show with your friends? That would be really tremendous. We'd really, really appreciate that, because this word has to get out there. It's really important for people to realize there's other options for immunity. So please share the show with your friends. If you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, or if you're listening as a podcast, maybe share it on Instagram, however you want to do that. But that would be really, really helpful to us. So like I said, everything will be available at extremehealthradio.com/667. And really quickly, I wanted to share with you this great product, and we love supporting Daniel Vitalis's Pine Pollen. He's running a once-a-year sale on pine pollen, and it's an incredible product, and we take it all the time. In fact, we ran out, I think about a week ago. We have to buy some more. But listen to what he has to say about pine pollen and what it can do specifically for your hormones.
You can think of pollen like the sperm of the plant world. And so I guess it's not shocking to find that pine sperm might contain testosterone, but it certainly is exciting because it gives us the ability to add androgenic hormones into our bloodstream, which can help, one, to keep us more anabolic, more fit, more driven, but it can also help to offset all of that excess of estrogen that we get into our body in the form of petrochemicals and in the form of phytoestrogens like come from soy and flax and other food crops as well.
It's actually doing two things. It's actually removing some of the phytoestrogens in the body as well as adding androgenic hormones.
What it's really doing is increasing our androgens, which help to bring us into better balance.
I see.
And one of the things about plants is that we can say this contains testosterone, and then somebody could say, well, what about some of the negative effects of using testosterone, creams or gels? And again, we're back to this point of when we use these substances in their whole food form, they contain a whole suite of other molecules that create balancing effects. So we don't have to worry about any of those sort of negative effects of using a bioidentical pharmaceutical grade testosterone.
Yeah, guys, just so you know, whenever there's like a medical, a product like a pharmaceutical drug, they typically isolate those compounds and then they hyperconcentrate them. So you're missing all of the other constituents of the plant where that should be available as well. Like Daniel just said, the alkaloids and things like that. So when you isolate certain key aspects of a plant or an extract, and then you hyperconcentrate that, that's why you can't have there's contraindications with medications because they can become toxic, especially when they're combined together, which is all about, the vaccines and things. And, they have never done any tests with the vaccines in terms of how they combine with other vaccines, and you get this synergistic soup. It's just a big mess. This is why we like whole food extracts, and pure potency pine pollen is an awesome product to get, specifically also for you guys that are getting into 40, 50, 60 years old. You want to have a plan for your hormones, and you want to have something where your hormones just aren't dropping off, and pine pollen is the first thing I'd recommend for that. So I also want to tell you about this really cool other product that is one of my favorites. It's actually the most popular one in our store, Biocharge Me. And this is our Relax Far Infrared Sauna, and it's an incredible piece of equipment that I encourage everyone to bring into their homes. Here's a little clip from Dr. Robert Rowan years ago talking about that.
It's one of the biggest. The other issue is chemicals in the environment. And to get rid of chemicals in the environment, probably the most cost-effective method is to sweat them out. And far-infrared saunas is going to help sweat them out.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look at the breast. What is the breast? It's 90% fat. It's only 10% mammary tissue.
Mm-hmm.
So the fat of the breast is going to store all these poisons, which act as estrogens, and hold it right up against sensitive mammary tissue.
And so these toxins get stored in the fat cells, and you can sweat these things out.
It's been shown that when you sweat in far-infrared saunas, you actually can begin downloading toxins from your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just used mine last night for 20 minutes. That's all I could stand in there, sweating like a madman last night. But here's Dr. Thomas Levy talking about it as well. I think you guys were just talking about sweating, right? Mm-hmm. And detoxification. So that's going to be huge for people.
No, it's as long as you make sure you get plenty of the good minerals, man, having a regular sweat in a far infrared sauna is one of your best health practices you can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you get rid of a wide array of toxins. I mean, you get rid of mercury, you get rid of iron. They would have you believe you can't get rid of iron, but a lot of the older clinicians called the skin the third kidney.
Yeah, guys, I really recommend bringing one of these into your home. You could spend thousands of dollars on the wood ones, and we sell the wood ones as well on our store, biochargeme.com, and we sell the ozone sauna, we sell the near-infrared sauna, but this one, for the cost, and it's the one that I use personally, and It's just an amazing machine. You can break it down, you can loan it to a friend, you can move it room to room. It heats up like immediately, so you don't have to preheat it for, an hour and run your energy costs of your house way, way, way up. It's your head sticks out of it. So from an Ayurvedic perspective, it's better for you because you don't want to heat your head from, according to Ayurvedic medicine. And it's actually a light therapy device because it's far infrared light. It's not heat that does the job. And it heats you up down to almost to your bones. Like, it makes you feel so good. That's why it's called Relax. And they've done multiple studies showing the toxins that it can remove from your fat cells. And I would really recommend moving into a 5G world, moving into this weird COVID pandemic thing going on. Have a strategy for your health for long term, and figure out a way to bring some of these healing tools into your home and turn your home into, like a healing place, a place where you can do some of these therapies. You don't have to go to a gym and drive there and use their machine and wear a mask and do all this crazy stuff. You can just hop in really easily. You can watch a documentary while you're in there. You can read a book and have a great time. So these are great saunas, low EMF, amazing. Like I said, I use mine about 3 or 4 days a week now. For the cost, they're just the best, and they're just the best regardless. I mean, I personally think this is the best sauna on the market, but we do offer others on Biocharge Me. So if you're content or intent on buying a wooden one, we offer those as well. So they're all available at biochargeme.com. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, there should be links in the description. If you're listening on a podcast, the links will be available at extremehealthradio.com/667. And we're going to come back with Mary and talk about the Sherriff, talk about the masks and all that good stuff. So thanks for listening, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Extreme Health Radio, and I hope you're enjoying this show. Please share it with your friends by tagging at Extreme Health Radio on Instagram. Stay tuned for new shows weekly.
Yeah, come join us every Friday morning, 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, live on YouTube, as long as we still have an account on there, and Facebook as well. We're working on migrating all of our YouTube content and everything into the Extreme Health Academy for censorship reasons. As you guys probably know, the censorship is going crazy right now. Many people are being censored, pulled off YouTube, like Mary was saying with Del Bigtree. He was recently pulled off. I listen to his show quite often, and he's a fireball as well. But there's all kinds of censorship happening. And the only way around the censorship and the algorithm that does this to us is for you guys to sort of put boots on the ground and share content. You don't have to share our show. Share any show that you think will help enlighten people and wake them up a little bit. And I think it's really important to do that, because we're living in the most, I think, important time in human history in a long time. And the direction the country goes depends on the actions you and I take. And so I encourage you, share good content you see, please. So anyway, enough of my rant. Let me bring Mary back on. And so Mary, do you do anything yourself on a natural health basis to take care of yourself and detoxify?
Absolutely. First of all, I really want to, your products are amazing. I totally support what you're doing out there to help people detoxify. Even if you don't do a lot of medication and don't vaccinate, we're taking in toxins every day. We all have our own little bucket of toxins, and our liver is under stress. So there have to be things that we do to detoxify. I have been following The Truth About Cancer, Ty Bollinger's stuff for years and years. I used to have him on my radio show, which I had for 5 years. And I'm all about colon hygiene, getting a proper nutritional diet, of course, eating organic as much as possible, grass-fed beef, free-range chickens. I read labels. I don't consume a lot of sugar. I'm doing a good form of zinc. I get a lot of sunshine. I don't buy into this thing that the sun is bad. I get a lot of sunshine so that I get natural vitamin D. I personally get lab tested about every 3 or 4 months to see what my B vitamin levels are. I personally suffer with something that is a vitamin A toxicity issue. My body doesn't break down vitamin A, which is in every green, leafy, bright colored vegetable. So I have to watch and you would think that that's, everyone should consume them, but I'm a person that can't consume them that much. So I do, like you said, I do colon cleansing. I've done coffee enemas for liver detoxing and to improve my glutathione, which is all promoted through people who do natural cancer curing type things. I'm always promoting my health. And I have been ever since I was about 18 or 19, I started investigating natural health. And I walked away from that crisis, sickness care model of healthcare.
Wow, you crazy, crazy woman. I bet, do you have any,
I know.
I bet your friends and family, do they think you're nuts, or are they on board with all the stuff you do?
No, my daughter Renee has a fantastic infrared sauna. My family, I have 10 brothers and sisters.
Oh,
And
wow.
I would say that, yeah, I'm one of 10, I'm number 7. And I have been able to influence them when it comes to homeschooling, medication, drugs, vaccines, and natural health care. So, no. My family, if anything, they're grateful that I began doing my research when I was only 17 and 18 years old, because I back everything that I share with science. And to me, and this is about that mask thing. People will say, well, if you don't wear a mask, you're being very selfish because you're not protecting us. And my feelings are, first of all, I take responsibility for my health. I promote my health, and I have been for years. And I don't trust in a mask, and I don't expect you to influence my health. I have to take care of my health. On the other hand, if you eat garbage food, if you're on lots of pharmaceutical drugs, and if you're taking over-the-counter medications, and you don't care about detoxing or cleansing, and you're drinking diet sodas and eating sugar, and that's your choice, but you're responsible for your health. And if the outcomes are not good, that's your problem, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ask me to put a mask on my face when I know it's not safe, to protect you. And then vaccinations wise, if you believe in a vaccine and you do them, that good for you. But why am I, as a person who doesn't vaccinate, why am I a threat to you if vaccines work? And so really, it's all just about logical thinking.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they're going to be coming in and pushing this forced vaccine thing? Do you think that the mask is a lead into that?
Absolutely. I absolutely do. I wish I could say no, but I believe they're testing us right now to see what we'll put up with. And when I walk into all the stores around me and I see I'm like one of maybe 2 people in the whole store that aren't masked up, I'm concerned, folks. But we also know that it's a very small percentage of people that bring about massive changes. And so I'm praying that 5 to 10% of our population are going to become active enough to bring about changes. And it would be great if we get 20% of the people out there doing this. Just so you know, Justin, every other week, I am on the corner of a big park downtown Charleston in a major thoroughfare with signs and a megaphone.
Are you really?
I absolutely am. My daughter's out there, her husband's out there, my grandkids are out there. And if I'm lucky, I get 15 or 20 other people to join me. But I go down there on my Sunday afternoon in 95-degree heat, and I stand in the sun in a corner with signs saying, it is your right to make a decision. The vaccine is not safe. People, open your eyes. I mean, I stand there and I yell as long as I can yell through a megaphone, trying to wake up people. Now, I'm doing this and I'm in my 60s. I want people to start doing this. You guys, if I can do that, and I'm willing to do that, you have to realize that it's your responsibility to protect your children and your family. We have to get out there and we have to start doing this. And I believe every town has a group like me out there.
Yeah, I
just
agree
have
with
to
that.
find them.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I think people need to start mobilizing locally. This is one of the things we were talking and discussing in our academy this morning on our Zoom call, is that how do we find local people in our area that think like we do, and let's mobilize as a group together to support each other. And then the other thing that I was thinking about too is there's a lot of pressure, as you know, from local businesses to force this whole mask thing, right? And they're only doing it because they're scared. They don't want to turn away customers, but if they're going to get fined $10,000 for every person who's not wearing a mask, they're going to enforce the mask, right? So what if local businesses in a local area got together and said, I have your back, you have mine, let's work together. And what we'll do is maybe we'll put a little percentage of our profits into a fund of some kind. And, if you get fined, if the company, 3 doors down gets fined, we'll all put in and pay their fine for them and support each other so that we can wake. These are all things I'm thinking about. Like, we got to figure out solutions locally, right?
And I'm all for that. I was in a business downtown briefly, and I was talking to a woman behind the counter, and she said to me, she said, I really believe in what you're doing. I hate this mask. And I said, what we need are business owners to say, on this date, we're not going to enforce it. We're going to all take off our masks. We're going to take down our signage that says you must have a mask. When you have 100 businesses in downtown Charleston that take down the signs and tell people walking in, you don't need that mask. You don't need that mask. Maybe. I mean, what are they going to do? Go and close all 100 businesses down? I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe if those businesses could set up a little organization or some way of maybe pooling in a little bit of money so in case the fines start coming, they can figure that out too.
And hire an attorney to represent them, and take this all the way to the Supreme Court of South Carolina or whatever state you're in. We have to fight this, you guys. We can't sit back and let them do this to us.
Tell me what you think about this idea. I'm curious, and then I want to get into the sheriff thing because not a lot of people know about that. But tell me about this idea as well from a consumer basis. What if we had like a hashtag, right, where it's like Storm Costco or Storm Sprouts or whatever the hashtag is, and the whole point of the hashtag is to get maybe a 1-minute clip. And it's not confrontational. It's not going to fight with anyone, but it's thousands of people on a certain day, like the Expose Bill Gates hashtag. It's thousands of people on a certain day going into Costco or going into a business and saying, I want to walk in without a mask. And they say, they tell you no. And you say, are you denying me entrance because of a medical condition? They say, yes. You say, okay, thank you very much. And then you leave, right? And there's your 1-minute video. And then we get thousands of people to create that video. Now you have a little bit of evidence to take to a potential lawyer who might be able to do something like a class action lawsuit. Do you think that's a good idea?
I do think it is. And I know that there's a way that we can also file an official complaint because it's a violation of our civil liberties. I religiously do not believe I should wear a mask. Okay. It's against my religion. Okay. Because I believe God created me with the ability to fight off infections. And I believe that bacteria are good. They're not bad. And that it's more about my body being healthy and my body being in balance. So it's against my religion to force me to put something on my body that I don't want on my body. But there are ways that you can also report, make an official report that it's a violation of your civil liberties. So that is something else other people are looking into.
Yeah, because I remember Del Bigtree talking about this early on about the mask, and he was saying it's not the same thing as no shoes, no shirt, no service. This is actually restricting airway, and it's a violation of your right to breathe. So it brings in health. So it's almost like you'd want to say, well, are you willing to take as a store owner responsibility if I fall over from a heart attack from wearing a mask? My family will sue you. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Be very. I don't know. We got to get creative, don't we?
We do. And we have to be, again, it's just getting out there, talking to friends that think like you do, gathering together, setting up a little meeting, like a Zoom or something, and creating these movements around the country. And I know they're taking place. Mm-hmm. There's probably one in every state, if not 5. And you just have to connect with these people and make the decision that you're not going to be fearful. You're going to be courageous, and you're going to get out there and do something about it for your children and for you.
Yeah, so agree. All right, let's get into this whole sheriff aspect, because you put this together in May of this year when it was all kind of going down. And so tell people about the county sheriff and how that all applies to all this as well.
Well, as you know, you mentioned County Sheriff Richard Mack, and he basically sued the government during when they were trying to force the Brady handgun bill. He said, no, we're not removing the handgun. And he ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court basically said that the county sheriff has the authority and the power to stop any unmandated federal law from coming into his county. And so I met Sheriff Mack back in 2009 before the H1N1 flu failed pandemic. And I talked to him about, could this apply to everything? And he said, absolutely. So back then I put this program together about the H1N1 flu vaccine. And it did go, many people went to their sheriff, and the sheriff were willing to support them on this. So when this came around, I rebirthed it, and I made it general in that it's not just about vaccines. It's about the mask. It's about shutting your business down. It's about social distancing. It's about tracking. It's about anything that your government is doing to you or trying to do to you that violates your rights under the Constitution or the First or Second or Third Amendment. So, and the First Amendment respects our right we have the right to say no to vaccines based on our First Amendment and our religious exemptions or whatever. So, long story short, I adapted that, and now I'm getting it out to people. I put together a PowerPoint presentation that you can download, very easy, and it explains all of this in very simple, it's only, I think it's maybe only 20 slides. And this is something you could take to your sheriff and say, Sheriff, I'd like to have a meeting with you, and I would like to teach you why I'm concerned about some of these things that are going on out there. And then getting your sheriff to agree that if for some reason they want to send the military around to your home and demand that you take a vaccine, that your sheriff is going to say, you're not doing that in my county. Okay? This is where the power is. And so the sheriffs have to know that you're behind them, though. Now, there are two types of sheriffs. There are sheriffs that are appointed by your local government, and they're appointed because they know that when they're appointed, they're more like a police officer. And those sheriffs might not be willing to step out of line and defend your rights. But if you have an election and your sheriff is elected by the people, for the people, he knows that his first and foremost responsibility is to protect the people of his county. He has the right to deputize hundreds, if not thousands of deputies to protect his county. And right now, there are several sheriffs around the country who are actually doing that. They're actually standing up publicly and they're saying, we will not force the mask. We are not going to give fines out to anybody who doesn't wear a mask or to businesses that don't force it. And so we do have some sheriffs out there who believe that what's taking place is definitely a violation of our rights.
Wow, interesting. How do you know what kind of sheriff you have? One that was appointed or one that was elected? Is there a way to know that?
Yep, and I actually give out the PowerPoint. I give out a letter that I created to your local sheriff that you can change and adapt to represent your feelings and your rights. I have a 10-step program, how to call the sheriff, what to say. You basically call your sheriff and say, Sheriff, I was wondering, are you appointed or are you actually voted into office? And then you say, I'd like to know how you feel, Sheriff, about forcing a mask on somebody, especially children. How do you feel about them shutting down all the businesses in our town? Do you feel that that's justifiable at this point when we know that this is not a pandemic virus that's killing millions of people? Get your sheriff to tell you where they stand first and foremost.
Okay.
Then, if he or she doesn't necessarily go along with what you want, you say, I'd like to set some time aside and come in and meet you personally and share some information with you. And then grab a couple friends that feel like you, some family members, or go yourself and sit down and go, Sheriff, this is where I stand. And you represent the people. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution. You swore an oath that you would uphold our constitutional rights. And so, Sheriff, I'm calling on you to represent me. And I also have a petition. You can get signatures to go with you. But this is going to put your sheriff in a position where they realize, number one, the people are waking up. The people are not going along with this. They're tired of it. The people are not going to be willing to be locked down in another month or two when Fauci and the World Health Organization comes and says, time to lock down and shut down and wear your mask and your shield, We really have an opportunity here to get our sheriff to say, you're right. I'm not going to do that. If they want to shut our businesses down again, I'm not going to do it. Or I think I'll put a notice out there that I'm not going to fine anybody who's not wearing a mask. I'm not going to do that. And that's where we have a lot of power.
Would you recommend still doing this if your sheriff was appointed? I guess so, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Just know that he gets a paycheck from the governor who appointed him, and he's going to be more submissive, perhaps, to what they want him to do.
Okay.
Because they're more like his boss. It's much better. In fact, I'm calling for people, if this gets out of hand, folks, you go out and you get a new sheriff. Mm-hmm. You find somebody who's willing to be the sheriff, and you appoint them, and you let them take over your county again. Okay, we have the power. The Constitution put the sheriff in there for this very purpose, to stop any unlawful mandate that is coming into your state or your county by a federal government that is overstepping their grounds. That's the whole reason for the county sheriff.
We're with Mary Tocco. Her website is childhoodshots.com, so make sure to check that out. And this is episode 667. Mary, do you know if it's possible to find a list of these sheriffs around, so that if people are looking at moving and they kind of don't care where they have to live, if they want to find these sheriffs, do we know who they are? Is there a database, do you think?
There is a group, and it's called the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. This is Sheriff Richard Mack's group. And they were going to have a conference this year, but they had to cancel it because of this, which I think they've rescheduled it, but I'm going to hopefully be one of the speakers there. You can also contact Sheriff Mack. He told me I can give his number out. His phone number is 928-432-1873. I also got on the phone and I called several sheriffs, and I found out through one in Michigan specifically, who is a constitutional sheriff, who's part of the Constitutional Sheriff's Organization. And he said, Mary, there are thousands of us scattered throughout the country, but many of them don't want to necessarily advertise it, because then the media and the government will make them look like they're rogue sheriffs, and they will do whatever they can to shut them down. He said, so we are quietly part of this organization and support it. By the way, I joined it personally, and I support them because I believe in these sheriffs. I've actually encouraged one of my 3 boys to go and become a sheriff, literally.
Wow.
Even though I know it's not an easy job, it's a tough job, and it's going to be a fight. I think we have to realize that this is going to be a fight up the road. At some point, there is going to be a fight for our rights on this land. And so the more sheriffs that we have on board, the more our children are protected, the more our county is protected. But we all have to get involved. It's not hard. It's just making a couple phone calls.
Yeah, we have to. We're working on getting Sheriff Mack on the show, so this is cool timing. Can you repeat his phone number once again for people that are scrambling to write that down?
Yes, 928-432-1873. And his email is Sheriff Mack, and I'm going to spell that, SHERIFFMACK @hotmail.com.
Oh, cool. Yeah, this is so interesting. So essentially this means that if the WHO or the federal government, or they want to send, like Trump said he was mobilizing troops, I don't know what that means. So if they want to come in and find you or come door to door, you can contact your sheriff, and he should be able to stand up for you in that case and say, nope, get out, guys.
I think we need to be proactive, because when it comes down, it's going to come down so fast, and everyone on the media is going to be putting that fear out there again. I'm calling people to be proactive, because it's going to come. And it could be right before the election, or it could become right after the election, but it's going to come, because they aren't happy with the results that they got in this last one. Not enough people died. And I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but this was a bioengineered virus that did come out of China, and their purpose was to make people sick and die, and it didn't happen like they thought. And so, and even if you don't believe that, that's okay, but be proactive, get out there, communicate with your sheriff ahead of time. So when you email me, and again, this isn't on my website, I apologize, I really need a technician to help me get it up on my website. But you can email me, Mary @marytocco.com. And my name is MaryTocco. So it's Mary@marytocco.com. And I will send you everything you need. There's 4 parts to it. You get the PowerPoint, the letter to the sheriff, you get the petition that you can get people to sign if you want to take it with you. And you can also get the 10 steps to implement this program. It's broken down, it's easy. I made it as simple as possible for people, because my goal is to get this out to every sheriff in the country.
That's so
and to every
cool.
person, you know.
How much time did it take you to put all this together? Quite a bit?
Hours and hours. If you go to my website, I have made several videos on it. The first time I put it together, probably about 60 or 80 hours because I was consulting with Sheriff Mack and I was looking at the law and making my PowerPoint and putting it all together. Then I went back in and redid it all, probably 25, 30 hours. But again, I don't charge for it. I just want people to get the information and get it out there because I feel like we are running out of time and the sheriff is our last hope.
Yeah, it's crazy. Isn't it crazy, Mary, how, for a lot of my life, I thought that what we're going through right now, this draconian big brother kind of thing, I thought, okay, maybe when I'm 90, 100 years old, 70, 80 in that range, maybe 50 or 100 years from now I might start getting like this. But the fact that it just came on us within 4 months is so fast, and I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised, but kind of not. It's just weird to think that it's actually happening in our life. Everything we've been talking about for years, right?
And everything that we've been screaming of red flag, red flag, red flag. People, stop being passive. Be courageous. Don't, I didn't go into this to be popular. I went into this because for whatever reason, God called me into this, because that's the only way I would have sustained all these years is by the grace of God. But we have to be willing to not be popular, and we can do it in love. As a Christian, I try to do it in love, but at the same time, I'm not going to live in fear. The Bible says God did not give us the spirit of fear. I am not in fear. I have a healthy, righteous fear against my government, who is trying to take away my rights and my grandbaby's rights. And they're doing it quickly. And most people are going along with it. But we also know, great quote by Nelson Mandela. He said, when a man is denied the right to live the life he believes in, he has no choice but to become an outlaw.
Wow.
We have a right to become an outlaw. It is your responsibility to become an outlaw for your children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying this show. We're going to take a quick little break right now. And maybe when we come back, if you guys want to call up on Skype, or if you guys want to put some questions into the chat, we'll take a few questions for a few minutes at the end of the show with Mary Tocco. Her website, again, is childhoodshots.com. Really cool. I really highly recommend going over there, signing up to her newsletter, or emailing her and getting the information that she just talked about. And really, really educating yourself, because at this point in our life, it comes down to education. We just have to get educated. We have to get off work a little bit early, put the kids down a little bit early, find some time here and there to start reading and doing some research, so that we know what we're talking about when we go talk to our sheriffs and other people too. So I think it's really, really important. One quick thing, you guys probably noticed the weird orange glasses I'm wearing. I wonder, why the heck am I wearing these orange glasses? These ones right now that I'm wearing are from a company called Blue Blocks, but there's also 3 that we recommend on our website: RaOptics, Blue Blocks, and True Dark. And these are a way to block the high frequency blue light that comes from most all non-native EMF, whether that's fluorescent lights above our heads, or LED lighting, or computer screens, tablets. All of these types of things, they ruin and trash our mitochondria, and we need our mitochondria in order to make energy. If you don't have any energy, you don't have the ability to have an immune system that has the energy to be able to prevent diseases from happening. I should just put it that way, for lack of a better way of putting that. So if you really want to boost your immune system, blue light is the way to do it. And also it helps you to hold on to melatonin, which we should be creating from morning AM sunlight. So blue blocking glasses is just a great way to do that. And let me bring up our resident eye doctor, Dr. Sam Byrne, talking about blue blocking glasses.
You've got the optical systems you're looking through, and then, as you say, the screen time. When people use their digital device at night in dim light, the pupils dilate more. And so more of that blue light is going to get in because of the dilated pupil. But they're not using blue blockers, and they're not, doing eye supplements or eating foods that protect their eyes. So this blue light, it's a chaotic, very fast wavelength. It's going to damage the tissue in our eyes. No question about it. It's really critical. The lens of our eye, our original hardware, has a pigment that blocks the damaging blue light. But those plastic lenses that they put in the eye do not have the pigment that blocks the damaging blue light. So when people get the cataract surgery, then they're more susceptible to getting macular degeneration, because that blue light can damage the macula. So they need to wear blue blocking lenses and protect their eyes, because these plastic lenses leave you wide open to be vulnerable to get the damage from the blue light. We're not sleeping well. We're exposed to all this blue light. So take your pick. There's probably, with all the people you have on your show, you could probably put that together and say, well, these are contributing factors in why our eyes are letting us down.
Yeah.
It's all of the above and more.
Yeah, guys, so here's the RaOptics, the ones that I use and wear. We wear them at different times. There are different colors for different times of the day, and it's really important, guys. One of the biggest things I could recommend is modulating and mitigating your light environment. And, if you are exposed to non-native EMF, you're going to be leaking melatonin. So melatonin is created in the morning in the AM sun. UVA, UVB, and UVC light is when you create melatonin. And what a lot of people think is melatonin is just a sleep hormone, but it's not. It's your number one anti-cancer hormone that you create endogenously. And anytime you're exposed to blue light, you leak like a bucket filled with water. You poke a hole in it, you leak melatonin every time you are exposed to blue light at night or in the daytime. So it's really important to protect your melatonin levels, and blue blocking glasses is a great way to do that. Here's a clip from our resident Ken Rolla, and we love him a lot, and he's talking about non-native EMF in terms of dirty electricity in the walls. Check out what he had to say.
Dirty electricity, what that does and what it is actually for people that aren't aware is when the power company is generating electricity and sending it to you, they don't have a constantly perfect steady supply of 120 volt 60 hertz electricity pulsing to you perfectly every time. It fluctuates quite a bit, and if you put meters on it, you can see it'll fluctuate. And so that fluctuation, and there are micro fluctuations as well. And those micro fluctuations, all that fluctuation creates these pulses in the wiring that will create EMF pulses around you. I mean, the wires themselves, when electricity is flowing through them, that will create a field around the wires that can affect you. But then when you've got all that little pulsing and micro pulsing going on, it's creating these frequencies of fields that are pulsing and affecting you negatively. And so those devices like the GreenWave, they will act like an inductor and smooth that signal out so you don't get that pulsing. And then my devices, because of the scatter fields, they will structure the EMF coming off of the wires in your house and everything else as well. I use those. I use Stetzer filters and GreenWave. I got both.
Yeah, guys. So with every problem, there's a solution, and we're moving into a crazy world. We had Magda Havas on the show a long time ago talking about dirty electricity and how it affects your hormonal levels. It affects your melatonin levels. It affects your blood sugar, glucose levels in the body. This dirty electricity in the walls is putting out electric and magnetic frequencies perpendicular to the wiring, and it's affecting us in a big, big way. And we had Brian Hoyer come to our house and measure the dirty electricity coming off of our walls, and it's crazy high. And we're sleeping next to these walls. We're working next to these walls. So what do? They didn't build our homes correctly. They don't insulate the wiring correctly. So all these wires, if you were to remove all of the wood and the paneling and just have wires as part of your house, it would look like you live in an electrified cage. That's really what we're living in. And these wiring is affecting our mitochondria in a big, big way and lowering your immune system, draining the body of energy, preventing you from being able to sulfate cholesterol so that you can make vitamin D from the sun, and all these things that are happening, and we don't even notice it. So here's the solution. Solution is these GreenWave filters. They're about $30. You can put them next to your bed, next to your children's bed, next to where you work, and it essentially cuts down and mitigates all of that electric and magnetic fields coming out of your walls all the time, down to about like 98%. So this is really, really key to put these things throughout your house, protect yourself. These are GreenWave filters available on biochargeme.com. Consider getting one for your bedroom, your kids' room, and your work area, and then eventually you can buy more for the whole house. But these are really, really cheap and inexpensive ways to mitigate this kind of stuff. So hope you guys are enjoying the show. If you are watching on YouTube, or Facebook, I should say, and you want to ask Mary a question, come over to our YouTube channel. It's just Extreme Health Radio, and we'll be live, and you can type in your question in all caps. And if you are courageous enough and want to call us on Skype, I think we have that working correctly, so it should be working right now. If you guys want to ask Mary a specific question, Extreme Health Radio on Skype. So let me take a look here. Yeah, so Mary, I'm so glad that you're doing the work that you're doing. I really am, because it's one of those things where we need more people out there, clanging the cymbals together and helping wake people up. And do you meet a lot of resistance when you're out there in the corner in the park with the megaphone? I'm sure.
I get a lot of thumbs up and a lot of people honking their horn saying, "We agree, thank you." But I also get a lot of the hand signal that isn't very appropriate.
Yeah.
And I just say, "God bless you. I love you too," But I don't care. Like I said in the beginning of this, a long time ago, I had to come to terms with the fact that what I do is politically incorrect, controversial, and that a lot of people aren't going to like me. But at the same time, I have no fear. I just do what I feel like I'm called to do, because I just am so driven about this. I wish more people were driven like me, and we might not be in this position. And like you, by the way, I have to tell you, I love your products. I am going to be getting those glasses for everybody in my family. I'm going to make sure they get them. And the dirty electricity, I've heard about that for years, and believe that we have to start protecting, especially with 5G coming. That's a whole nother issue. But I love your products. They're great.
Thank you. Yeah, with every, I think just, with every problem, there's a solution. And something I've been learning too is this whole 5G phenomena. It's what I've learned recently. It is a jump conductor. So what that means essentially is that this 5G is coming off these cell towers in our area, but it's jumping on to the dirty electricity already existing in our walls, and it jump conducts. And so, like you said, moving into a 5G world, we need solutions, don't we?
And I believe that for everything man does, there's a solution out there, but you have to seek it. You have to be willing to invest in it. Health is an investment in your body, and the dividends last for the rest of your life. And so even though sometimes you look and go, wow, organic food is more expensive, or getting a dirty electricity blocker is expensive. My gosh, look at what, a television costs, or another vehicle, or a four-wheeler, or a boat, it's all about our priorities. So I really love your products. They're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we kind of vet them a lot, and I know you have a lot of cool stuff, which I want to mention too, your DVD series in just a second. We'll take a couple questions, and then we'll let you go, because I want to make sure that we're cognizant of your time. For those that are watching on YouTube, if you have any quick questions for Mary, type them in all caps, and this one comes from Ben Grady, and he says, what is the easiest thing to convince people or get them to realize the dangers of? My wife sees all the vaccinated children at church and thinks they are okay. I'm not sure exactly what the question is. Do you?
Well, I do. People whose kids are not showing signs of severe autism, they think they're okay, but they might have asthma. They might be picky eaters. They might have ear infections. They might have gut disorders. They might have skin disorders. So these kids are not okay. They got heavy doses of metals and animal viruses. They are not okay. They might end with brain cancer, bone cancer. Diabetes is huge. Diabetes is rampant right now. So they might look okay, but they're not okay. But an analogy I came up with, and I actually, when I do my lectures, I bring a huge fake apple. And in that apple, I have injection needles, and I have colored water in those needles. But the analogy that I use is, if I took an apple and I injected into it a bunch of aluminum, some mercury, a little phenol and acetone or formaldehyde, thousands of animal viruses, bug viruses, decomposing animal parts, would you eat the apple?
Mm-hmm. Of course not.
Right. Well, this is common ingredients that we inject into our children. And if it's not safe to eat, how can we even think it's safe to inject into their little bodies?
I know. And that would even be safer theoretically, because at least it would be exposed to your detoxification organs like your liver and your stomach acid, right? So,
yeah. Or you would throw it up, it would come right back out. Your body would reject it as soon as it hit your stomach, or you would have massive diarrhea and get very sick from it. So that's one analogy that I've used on nurses, who start to tell me, oh, well, the vaccines are totally safe. And why is it that all these kids are healthy? And I simply say, well, are they really? Asthma, diabetes, gut disorders. what about the psychotropic drugs these kids are on? Are they really normal? How many of those kids in that school are on Ritalin or one of 80 other psychotropic medications daily because they can't sit in a chair and learn?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the infrared saunas help, you know, to get those metals out of their little bodies. But they're not okay. Just because they don't have an obvious cancer today, or, you know, they probably, a lot of those kids will end up with a whiffer for asthma that they have to take with them to school every day. They're not okay.
I know, and it looks like they are, and that's the problem. But here's a question from Brandy. She says, I know of a family that raised their baby without medications, and they're totally natural family. Their son has been medically kidnapped, and CPS said they can't see him. Anyone know of any attorneys for help? Golly.
And this is a problem. You know, when you step out of line, there are those that are going to try to get you back in line. I've heard this over the years, dozens and dozens of times. I know that there's attorneys out there. I would contact the National Vaccine Information Center and ask them if they know. It depends on your state. But this kidnapping is real, and it happens. And you have to be very careful if you do need medical emergency care. When you go into a hospital, I would definitely, when I've had to use the hospital twice with one of my child who broke his arm, I took a couple of my vaccine books with me. But when they said, is he up to date on his vaccines? I said, we're all set. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I said, we're all set. Then they say, well, do you want a tetanus vaccine? I'll say, no, thank you. We're all set.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Because it is dangerous. But I don't have the answers there. Just like all the kidnapping of children that's going on, we live in a very fallen world, and the Department of Social Services is one of those agencies that is out of line, and they have no one to answer to. So that is always a problem, and I'm sorry that happens. It's common, but it's not to the point where they're taking every kid who's not vaccinated. So I don't have the answer. Find an attorney who might be able to help you.
Yeah. You might want to look at the Envision movement or Empower. I think it's called Empower movement, Brandy. I think it's like inpowermovement.com. We interviewed Cal Washington, who's the head of that. And he works with private people in his network with 5G, with smart meters and vaccinations. And I don't think he represents you legally, but he sets you up with some solutions that could be helpful for you. Hey, Mary, really quickly, I want you to be able to tell people about a discount with the coupon code you sent me for some of your DVDs and products. And I just need to kind of make a pitch for you, Mary. Your information is so great, and it's so empowering, and you've done the work, like you've put in so much time and effort in getting to the studies and getting to all the information that really helps people. And it saves just hundreds of hours for people to not have to do this themselves. And you put this all in different DVDs. So I'm going to bring up your website, and maybe you can tell people a little bit about what you have going on in terms of the DVDs and where people can get them.
Awesome. So if you go under the shop up on the blue bar, you'll find the shop button. And I have a 6-part, there you go. It's the 6-part DVD series, Vaccines, Risk, Responsibility, and Rights. By the way, that's 2 of my grandbabies on the cover. And when you buy the actual DVD, the DVD set, it's normally $60, but if you use the code VAX, VAX 2020, you will automatically save 50%. Oh, wow. This is probably about 7-8 hours worth of information. I have worked on this for years and years and years. And it's every slide has references, documents, charts and graphs from the CDC, the FDA. I go all the way back from the polio vaccine forward to current day vaccines, of course, not including the cupcake vaccine. Mm-hmm. But this DVD series, I have been putting all this information for you so you can, get some popcorn going, invite your friends over once a week and sit down and watch one of my segments and have a discussion about it. And then also, if you want to download it, you can download whatever part is interested in you, although I don't offer a discount because they're only $7. Mm-hmm. But I really want to just empower people, because you will know more than any medical doctor out there When you watch this video series, it's a library of information, and you will have the facts and the studies to reference.
That's so cool. So we have a lot of people that listen, at different times, and we recycle our shows, our podcasts and stuff. So we're recording this on August 14th, 2020. Do you know how long that discount code is going to be available for people?
I'm keeping it up there as long as I get in front of people, and I know they're coming from your show, and it's going to be up there a while. Absolutely.
Okay, good. And normally, guys, you normally sell this for $95, but it's actually on sale now for $60. So are you saying that it's available for $30?
Yes, I am.
Wow, cool.
And believe me, it's worth it. It is 40 years of thousands and thousands of my hours of research made easy for you to watch in the comfort of your home on your TV. And so I have church groups that are doing it on a weekly basis. They're getting groups of parents together. And I have Bible study groups that are using it, and mommy groups that are using it in a group format, because it is a whole series and it covers everything you need to know.
So I'm going to read this for those that are listening on audio podcast. Part 1 is vaccine history, polio, and the declining of life-threatening diseases. Part 2 is natural immunity basics. Part 3 is man-made toxic ingredients in vaccines and medical studies documenting injury, which would be super interesting. Part 4, herd immunity deception. Do vaccines protect? Can vaccines cause outbreaks of vaccine-preventable diseases? A big argument made by vaccine promoters. Part 5 is vaccines and autism. And has the study been done? Have all the vaccines been examined? Can vaccines cause autism? Those are all covered in Part 5. And the final Part 6 is a congressional hearing on autism, influenza vaccines, HPV vaccines, and more. This is awesome. It's over 5 hours. Wow.
Yes.
That's great. That's really cool. So, wow. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up too was your other product that you have here, the Natural Immune Development. Is this a new book you wrote?
It is. I published it this year. And the reason I published it is people will say, well, if I don't vaccinate, what if my kids get sick? What do I do? And the last thing I want to do is give medical advice. I don't. But I want to empower people by educating them on how the immune system works, what it looks like when it's working, so that you don't go into fear and panic and run to the drugstore or go to your doctor and say, oh my gosh, my daughter's sick, and the pediatrician is going to go, see, you should have vaccinated your baby. So this is really another step. One thing I want people to know is this learning process never ends. You have to really take the time to investigate how to raise our children healthy. I have a whole nother talk that I give, a public lecture called Raising Children Nature's Way. And it's the way I raise my kids, it's the way my grandbabies are being raised, and it's the way thousands, if not millions of people are doing it now to avoid getting caught up in the medical paradigm of sickness care. And so this book is it's only 80 pages. It's fully referenced, but it describes how the immune system develops in utero before the baby's even born, how it's stimulated as soon as they're born, and how we can support it the first 5, 6, 7 years of life, because that's when everything in their body is developing. And that's when we need to protect it and not assault it. And vaccines assault the immune system.
Yeah, it's so key and critical what you're doing, because I think it really calls into question what we have to do to take care of ourselves and stop outsourcing, just living our life like the status quo, and then falling back on the doctor's support for vaccines, for this cupcake thing going on, or it's just like, let's all take responsibility for our health, and let's actively and proactively, like you said, let's do things that are going to keep us from getting stuck in that whirlpool. It's like a whirlpool, right? And they just kind of hook you. Oh, you're 40 years old. You need to now get this test. Or you're 50 years old. Now we've got to get your test. And then they just kind of hook you with testing. And then all of a sudden you're in this downward spiral. God knows what. And then they're going to be, like you said, just trying to get you on drugs and medications. It's crazy.
Right. I also can add that when you order this DVD series, I'm going to throw in for free an 8-page booklet about the aluminum and the mercury that is still in vaccines. My daughter, Dr. Renee Hunter, and I put this together, and it gives all the references, research, and studies about how those things are causing problems. And then I am also the vice president for the Foundation for Pediatric Health, which is a nonprofit that my daughter and I started. She's the president. And I put together this year a brochure on the use of aborted baby tissue in adult vaccinations. And this booklet is great for clergy, pastors, teachers, pro-life people, people who don't want human RNA and DNA injected into their kids. But it's a brochure, and I will also stick a few of those in there for free to help support you in your decisions.
That's awesome. That's cool. So the Sherriff Mac information, the slideshow that you have for that, that's all available for free, right? All someone has to do is email you. Is that the deal?
Yes. Yes.
Cool. So it's mary@marytocco.com, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Mary, I want to make sure that I'm aware of your time and make sure that you get out and be able to enjoy your Sunday. My gosh, thanks so much for joining us today. That was so cool.
You're welcome. And anytime, I'll be happy to come back anytime. And thank you so much for inviting me back. After all these years, we have to do it more frequently.
I know, definitely. Well, Mary, thank you again so much for your work, and keep doing your work. And I just support you so much in what you do. So I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too, Justin. God bless you and what you do as well.
Thank you so much. I'll be in contact via email, and I'll send you the link to the show once it's done.
Great. I'll promote it on all my sites.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. Have a great Sunday.
Same to you too. Thank you.
Okay, bye. All right, guys, there you go. Mary Tocco from childhoodshots.com, episode 667. We'll put links to everything that we talked about. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hi. We are living in such precarious times, you know. My goodness, I don't even think we realize just how much and how important this time in life is. And I think we all have to start taking some time and doing some research and stop outsourcing our health to bureaucrats and to government agencies and to media companies and to doctors and teachers and all these types of things, where we're outsourcing our power and our health to other people. And I think it's really time to start taking responsibility for our health and start actively doing things proactively that's going to benefit our health. You know, it doesn't do any good to sit inside all day, spend 97% of your time indoors. Like I read just recently that most Americans are spending 97% of their day indoors, eating genetically modified food, exposed to non-native EMF from dirty electricity, from Wi-Fi, 5G, and wireless routers, exposed to all this toxic blue light, and eating glyphosate-rich foods and fast foods, and sitting all day and being scared to death about a cupcake that and most likely is not going to affect you. And, you know, reading something recently that 20% of the 20% of people that actually get diagnosed with this thing, and by the way, the diagnosis isn't even true. They're not isolating the virus. Ask anyone doing any of the PCR tests or any of the antibody tests. They're not isolating the virus. They're just not isolating it. That's a first step to figuring out what this is. They're not isolating any virus. And so of that 20%, there's a 0.26% death rate. I mean, it's negligible. But all of these people that are dying are coming, they have comorbidities going on. They're diabetic, they're obese, they're overweight, they have issues, all kinds of other pre-existing conditions. Most likely they're on average, like the average American, 2 to 3 pharmaceutical medications. And it's just interesting to me that people who are on the other side and can't wait to get back to normal are outsourcing their health to the WHO, the CDC, and the pharmaceutical companies, because they're on 2 to 3 pharmaceutical drugs, the average American. And so if you haven't shown enough responsibility to take care of your health to the extent that you have to now be artificially propped up by a pharmaceutical drug, you're not in any position to talk about health and virology. You're just not, because you're showing a clear negligence in your own body that you cannot even exist without being propped up artificially by a pharmaceutical cocktail. So if you're not able to be healthy without drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, then, you know, let's not all of a sudden be becoming experts in viruses, right? So I think what we need to do is really start educating ourselves and learning as much as we possibly can about virology and viruses and what these things are. And we did a really great show with Dr. Andy Kaufman. I think that was episode 665 that I would really recommend you guys listen to. That was really great. And he talked about Koch's postulates and how there's a philosophical framework through which you have to prove that A leads to Z. And you got to get from A to Z through these 5 philosophical model points. And the first step is isolation of the virus to determine what this virus actually is. Then you have to determine, does that virus also exist with other symptoms that are being blamed on that virus? And so then you have to actually cause it, the virus causes those symptoms. And then once you do that, you have to actually say that those symptoms, if those symptoms are causing death, then is that virus the conduit through which it causes death on people? And the first of the Koch's postulates, which is the first thing of isolating the virus, they've never done. So everything after that is not even relevant, because if you haven't isolated the virus, then you can't prove anything after that, right? So we're living in draconian times right now where the agenda is clear. The agenda is, in my opinion, to get everyone fearful, to prep and prime everyone to see what they can do, what they can get away with, and to get everyone fully vaccinated. That's the agenda, and as well as to cripple the economy. And some people are saying to get Trump out of office. I don't know about that. I try to keep politics out of this whole thing, but they're coming after you now, and they're coming after your family. They're coming after your health. And I'm not going to promote fear, because I feel like there's solutions with everything. And one thing I shared with our Academy members on today's Zoom call is ultraviolet blood irradiation therapy. I did a video inside our Extreme Health Academy of 26 solutions to this thing, with PubMed articles supporting and studies showing solutions. But the number one solution I would recommend is ultraviolet blood irradiation therapy. And you can go to a website called acam.org, acam.org, and look and put in your zip code and look for ultraviolet blood irradiation, and you can find someone in your area. And I would recommend making a consultation with that doctor and just developing a relationship with him. And so this would be good for anyone that's dealing with a cold or flu, a simple cold or flu, right? Where you have this in your back pocket. So if your children ever comes down with chicken pox, if they ever come down with measles, mumps, a really bad case that the body's unable to get on top of, you can take them there. And Dr. Massey, who is one of my mentors and one of my favorite doctors, medical doctor, former anesthesiologist, trained and groomed through the medical establishment, has said that he's never seen a virus where high-dose IV vitamin C therapy and ultraviolet blood irradiation in conjunction or separately has able to stand up against. So that's over 20 years of treating people in this way. And he's never seen a virus be able to stand up to that. So when you have solutions, you have less fear. Fear dissolves through research and understanding and knowledge. So in the presence of knowledge, you have no fear, right? So just knowing things like that, I think, is really important, because then, if you ever did come down with something, you have something in your back pocket. Now, traditionally, I'm not a big fan of the ascorbic acid because of what it does to one of the most important proteins in your body, according to mineral expert Morley Robbins, that is ceruloplasmin. And ceruloplasmin is very, very important to make copper bioavailable. So whenever you get a blood test that says you're copper toxic, that's simply because it's not being loaded into that protein called ceruloplasmin. And in order for it to get into that protein and to stay in there, that's the thing, is the way it gets in there is through the ingestion of vitamin A and retinol, true animal fat, animal food. And the way it stays in there is the absence of certain key things like high fructose corn syrup, like vaccines, like ascorbic acid. So what happens when ascorbic acid hits that protein is it causes it to fold, I think, to the left or to the right, or it causes it to become misshapen, and essentially the copper inside ceruloplasmin leaks out. And when that happens, it becomes unbound and not bioavailable. So you need copper to regulate all of the iron that's in your body. And the iron is what's causing lipofuscinosis. It's what's causing your cells to be choked off, not able to utilize and harness and absorb and work with oxygen correctly. And so you've heard that the story from, what's his name, that famous researcher, I forget, he showed that when you deprive a cell of 35% oxygen, cancer ensues. And so when you cannot harness and use oxygen properly, cells start to turn cancerous. And so when you have excess iron in your body because you don't have enough copper, think of iron like, or copper like the Hoover Dam, a big dam that's holding all of this iron at bay, right? That's what copper's doing. It's trying to regulate all of that iron in your body. And so when you don't have enough of that, iron just floods everywhere, right? And they test you for iron. It's in your tissues. It's everywhere. It needs to go back to the bone marrow to create more red blood cells for the day, right? But ascorbic acid essentially causes that ceruloplasmin protein to not be able to be utilized so that it can regulate the iron. That's why I'm not a fan of ascorbic acid. But, if I were on death's door and I knew vitamin C therapy would work, I would go get one. You can do these things, and, you don't have to be sort of orthorexic about it. You can kind of, there's a little bit of leeway, right? You don't have to worry too much. So, but that's the thing, is what I'm saying is like, there are solutions out there that we're not being told about. All we're being told about is hydroxychloroquine, and they want that one suppressed for obvious reasons, right? They want a vaccine to come out. So, but there are other solutions, methylene blue and ultraviolet blood, irradiation therapy. These things kill viruses. And so, like I said, when you know this kind of information, you can have things in your back pocket. I think it's really time for all of us to start educating ourselves. And I would really recommend contacting Mary. Just write her an email, Mary@MaryTocco, MaryTocco.com, Mary@MaryTocco.com, and go over and get some of her her educational materials as well. Support her work. People like this are doing great things. And I think it's really important for all of us to stop doing frivolous things in our lives and start actually focusing time on things that matter. I used to be a big sports guy. I love sports and I love outdoors. I love activities. I was always really athletic, and I love surfing and basketball and jiu-jitsu and tennis and all these sports. But it's to the point where we need to let that stuff go. And we need to really turn off the news and turn off the mainstream media and start doing some research and start educating ourselves and filling our mind with positive information that empowers you. Because when you know that there's solutions out there, you're not going to be fearful. And this is the whole point of our radio show, is to give you guys solutions that you're not going to hear on the news. And when you have solutions, you're not fearful. And part of the fear, iron activates the fear center of the cell. So all of us are full of iron, so we're going to be more fearful than normal. But then you add on top of that, we're watching the mainstream news. We're doing all these things that are causing us to become even more fearful, not realizing there's options out there if you even believe in this whole virus thing to begin with. And so people that are easily fearful are easily controlled. You can see it. Walk outside your house and look at everyone wearing a mask and how fearful they are. I'm not judging anyone for wearing a mask, but I think it's time that we start coming together as a group. And this is one of the things we're talking about in our Zoom call, which, by the way, come and join the Extreme Health Academy, guys. If you really want to take your health to new levels and get access to information that you're not going to hear anywhere else, come and join us. There's links down below. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you type in the code EHR14 at extremehealthacademy.com, it'll give you 2 weeks free. And you come join us on our Zoom calls every Friday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific. We're doing a live Zoom call. I may even do more during the week, but we've got educational courses. We've got workshops. We've got all kinds of cool stuff coming out all the time. All the content is searchable. So if you want to find what we think about certain ways to get rid of, malaria or diabetes or cirrhosis or whatever, all of our answers are searchable, so you can find what you're looking for really easy. And it's just a great community. I'm telling you guys, I had so much fun this morning connecting with everyone in the Zoom call, because it's like I'm making friends, people that think like I am, and empowered, learning stuff myself from all of you guys. And I think moving into the future, this is what we need. We need to support and surround ourselves with people who are going to inspire us and motivate us and learn from each other. And because we're seeing more and more division. So come join us inside the Extreme Health Academy, extremehealthacademy.com, and then type in the code EHR14 for a free 2-week trial. Come say hello in the forums, and I'd love to meet you personally. I just love getting to know you guys and helping you on an individual basis. So we all have knowledge, and we can all support each other that way. That's why we created the Academy. So if you guys are listening on audio, I'll put everything available at extremehealthradio.com/667 to Mary's DVD series and all kinds of good stuff there. So I'll hang out for another couple minutes, and if you guys have any questions specifically for me, let me know in the chat room. I'll be on YouTube, so I'm over on YouTube right now. Angie says your most recent video with Blackburn was so good. Well, thank you, Angie. Yeah, Matt and I are on the same page with just about everything, and lipofuscinosis is something that we talked about. This is the amount of yellow fat disease, essentially, is what's happening is that when you consume omega-3 oils and in combination with iron, these things oxidize in the body, causing all kinds of disease. And this oxidation actually gets into our lysosomes. And when you have your lysosomes inside the cell filled with all of these toxins, your body can't do autophagy. And so you can't have that cellular regeneration going on. And so, yeah, that was a really good show. So yeah, that was episode, I think 662 or somewhere around there with Matt Blackburn. And by the way, guys, if you want any of his products, we have a discount code for you. If you want to support our show and if you like the work that we do and like Matt's work, he's got some really great vitamin E products, which helps get rid of excess lipofuscin in the body. And he's got some really great products there that we take all the time. His Shilajit is amazing. And you can get 15% off if you go to mitolife.co, I think it is, mitolife.co, and use our code. Or go to biochargeme.com and you'll find his products there. And the code is EHR15, I think. Way above. Awesome. Good to see you here, man. This is cool. Love the chat with Dr. Kaufman. Is he coming back? I missed it. Yeah, we can get him back on again. He was great. I think one of the big takeaways from that show, Way Above, is for those of you that didn't see it, Dr. Kaufman is an amazing medical doctor, and he sort of formulated this whole idea that they have never isolated the virus. And there's other doctors too, like Dr. Tim O'Shea, who's put out a $5,000 reward for anyone who can actually prove that this thing exists. So far, no one's been able to do it. But Dr. Kaufman was awesome, and I think near the end of that episode, we talked about some cool solutions that we can do and start doing in our own life. So make sure to check out that show. That was a really fun show. Yeah, Dr. Kaufman is great. He got his video taken down too. Ben, you said they were excellent. Awesome. Yeah, if you guys have any ask me anything kind of questions for me personally, let me know and I'll answer them before I leave. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes. But Ben says, what do you know about increasing glutathione production to slow oxidative stress and cellular detoxification? I love connecting with more like-minded people, the Dr. Bergman and Dr. Yeah, so Ben, what I would recommend is balancing your minerals first, because glutathione is going to be based on your magnesium levels. And if you're low in magnesium, your glutathione production is not going to be what it needs to be. You can take exogenous glutathione, and they make a lot of products for that. But what I would do first is really start regulating and managing your iron and copper levels as well as your magnesium. And that would be the first way. So what I would probably do is, if you're really into this, you can get a glutathione test and test your glutathione levels, and then spend 4 or 5 months and really start regulating your magnesium levels and your iron levels. And your copper levels. And when you do that, get another glutathione test, and I bet you anything your glutathione production is going to be higher up, because it's your liver. Your liver has over 500 functions, and you need that liver to be working properly, not just to do things like create bile through the gallbladder and the stomach and to be able to digest your food, and also to be able to sulfate cholesterol so you can make vitamin D from the AM sun in the morning, but you also need it to be able to create glutathione so that you can detoxify all these chemicals that we're being exposed to. So your liver, has over 500 functions. It's super important to make sure your liver's working correctly. So that's what I would do. I would work on other minerals downstream that affect the glutathione production and focus on your liver health before you start taking an exogenous glutathione supplement. Do you have the link to the research articles on the mask in the academy? Way above. I don't know. That's a good idea. You know what? We should synthesize that. That's a great idea. Putting together. But yeah, let's. You know what? That's a great idea. Way above. I'm gonna do that to give people some ammo. I like that. That's a good idea because right now this is such a critical time. This is such a critical time that we all need to be banding together and start supporting each other. And I really recommend supporting people like Mary Tocco. Go over and get a couple of her products. $30 for that 6-part DVD series. That's nothing. And normally it's $90. We don't make any commission or anything. So there's just nothing other than supporting her and her work. Is milk thistle worthless for glutathione production? No, it's not. Milk thistle is really powerful and it's sort of the standard go-to herb that you would take for more of a systemic liver health. It's not something that you would do in an acute crisis of liver pain or anything like that, but it's something that you would do kind of like a mushroom. You know, it's something you can. It's a tonic. You can take it every day. It's definitely worth doing for your liver health. Your liver really does respond to milk thistle, and so it's been used for forever for liver health. Early in the elderly and very ill were dying, but they tested positive for C19. Anyone remember this slight? Didn't they come out and say they died from the fake flu? They tested positive and some fruit. Yeah, Barbara, I think what you're alluding to is that the president of Ghana in Africa, I think he tested a cow or a goat and a piece of fruit, and they both tested positive for this thing. But you know, that doesn't make the news, right? So if you're just watching the news, you're screwed. If you're watching the news, you're basically screwed. And last night, Kate and I were walking the dogs and the kids before bed, and you just walk by all the houses and they all have the news on. I'm just like, what are you guys doing? This is why we're in the problem we're in, is because everyone's watching the freaking news. Like, turn off the news and start doing some research, or at the very least, turn on some music or something. Invest in your own life, but turn off that news. It's going to get you nowhere fast, and it's going to do nothing but program your mind with fear. I don't care if it's Fox News. I mean, for crying out loud, Disney owns Fox News. Right? Do you think they're going to start? Do you think Fox News is going to be looking into things like what's really going on? I mean, CNN is just as bad or even worse than Fox. Great input. NRF2, any thoughts about it? No thoughts on NRF2. Ben, great to see you here, though, dude. I appreciate that. My phone, Dr. A said my phone buffered almost the whole episode. Oh, wow. Yeah, we will have a replay, Dr. Ace, as long as it's available on YouTube. I started with updated June WHO recommendation on masks. They made it as confusing as possible for laymen. Yeah, I know. The whole mask thing, man, I tell you, what a crock of garbage that is. The whole mask thing, and this, you know, it's so frustrating because, you know, people don't like where's the HIPAA people talking about people now that are wearing these masks all day long and are lowering they're exposing themselves to dangerous amounts of CO2, lowering their internal oxygen. I mean, it's unreal. Miss Vicky says, "Hey Justin, could you put the link in the description for the ultraviolet light irradiation?" Yeah, you know what, Miss Vicky, we're gonna have the guy who has either invented it or he has a particular machine, I think, that does this. He's going to be on our show because we need to highlight this therapy that people don't know about. But the way to find a person in your area, let me type it in the chat room real quick. It's acam.org. I'll put it on the show notes too at extremehealthradio.com/667. But go on there and you can find a practitioner and search by their treatment, and you can look for someone in your area that does UBI treatment. The news is like a horror comedy, people. I know. It's crazy, Sam. I know what you're saying. Like, the news is there to make you feel, programmed. It's there to make you feel disempowered. It's make you feel fearful. It's It's a tragedy that so many people are watching the news. It really is, because this is the reason. If the news actually reported the truth, I think this is probably why Donald Trump is so against all this fake media stuff, fake news stuff, is because if they really did report the truth, there would be no one walking around in masks, because everyone would know what you and I know, which is this whole thing is a joke, and no one would be fearful. But this is how they disseminate information. I think the only way to combat that is to just turn it off and start, not just that, because then you just stop the onslaught, but the only way to combat that is actually fill your head with knowledge and empowering info, because otherwise you're going to be a sheep just like everyone else, and you're going to be scared and fearful. And I feel bad for people that are fearful. I really do, because if I actually thought that there's a virus out there that could kill me and I was really scared about it, I feel for those people. But in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. Okay? So you could choose, you can type right now, even though the censorship is massive, you can do your own research. And if you're not going to do your own research, it's not even worth having a conversation, because you're addicted to your own fear. And if you're addicted to fear, then just go ahead and be in that fear, and just be there, okay? But if you're not going to accept any new information, it's not even worth talking with you. So this is one of the things I want to tell you guys about, is this whole Sherriff MAC and the Sheriff's Plan of Action for Citizens. And most people don't know this. So, it's really important for us to know what our options are. If you don't know your options, you're controlled. Dr. A says, I can definitely find links to post in the Academy. Yeah, Dr. Ace, maybe in the Academy, let's put together, maybe I'll put together some sort of course or series of videos, maybe curated videos of some kind. I'll see what I can do, and just doing something where we talk about the masks and stuff like that. That's a good idea. Really good idea. Maybe have some inserts that we can print out and give to people. Barbara says, look up Hoff, the Iceman. He can center his brain to fight off disease, extreme cold, by breathing and meditation. Yeah. The Wim Hof method. Powerful stuff, guys. Super powerful stuff. We have no reason to be in the dark in this time. How many red flags have been raised with this whole thing? Mainstream media is out for clickbait articles to generate money from ads. Jenna, I couldn't agree with you more on that. You see these kinds of articles all the time, and you go to their web page, and they've got just ads all over the place, and you can see what their business model is, and it's horrible. And in the same way, we also have to consider like where we're spending our time online too. So whenever you visit a page like a Yahoo News article or a CNN article or a Fox News article that's pure propaganda, just know that your page view was counted in their statistics. And so they can say, 100,000 people looked at this article, and then they can run ads against that and charge more for people to be able to advertise on that particular page, because 17,000 or 100,000 people looked at that page. So this calls into question, where we're spending our time online and what we're doing too, because, whenever we visit an article or a page, it's being counted, and ads are used against that in order to for them to keep doing their thing. So it's really important to make sure we take stock, I think, of every aspect of our lives, So, oh my gosh, Dr. A says motor oil tested positive. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Do you have the study for that or the article on that? Oh my gosh. Turn off the news and do research. Yeah. Do not eat food and do not prepare yourself. Yeah, that's crazy. Justin, do you remember the link I sent you about how they were using masks as a ritual? Dr. Ace, did you send that to did you send that to me in the Academy, or did you send it to my personal email? I feel like can you resend that link to me? That would be great. All right, guys. Well, I thank you guys, for joining us. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Way above, Justin, just a thought, maybe have a Zoom call about how to read research papers. Yeah, that's a good idea. Great idea. That's awesome. Yeah, we're also working on, in the Academy as well, we're working on a member directory, because one of the things I was talking with Dr. Kaufman about at the end of that show was how he was putting together a little group locally in his area of, it's like a bonfire thing he would have once a week with people in his area, and he would meet with them and they would share ideas. And I think I mentioned this earlier on in this show about how he was doing that and the power of meeting personally and physically with people in person and being there for each other. And so in the academy, I'm creating a member directory, and that's going to show everyone in your local area based on your zip code. And so we're kind of working out some of the kinks on that. It's taking a while to get going. But in the academy, I want to be able to, like, if I'm living in a certain city, like Phoenix, for example, I want to be able to see, hey, is there any other academy members in Phoenix in my area that I can meet up with? And maybe we can start something like this. And so, yeah, I feel like a member directory would be a really good idea in addition to the academy. So that would help you guys be able to sort of make some friends in your area who think like you do. Jenna, you said you tuned in late. You'll watch the show later. Yeah, thank you for that, Jenna. I appreciate it. We talked a lot about some cool things in this show. This was a really fun show with Mary Tocco. Barbara, yes, we need to. I only have my daughter. Everyone thinks I'm a nutcase. Gosh, isn't that hard, Barbara? It's really hard. You know, a lot of my friends think I'm crazy too, you know, but you know, it's like when you're exposed to the amount of information that most of you guys are listening to and most of Academy members are learning, you're not crazy because you know it's not a conspiracy because there's evidence and proof for all the things that we're looking at. It's just that when you watch the mainstream news, you think people that believe anything worse or different are crazy. Miss Vicky says, well said, Justin. I'll be telling everyone that point next time I talk to everyone. Thank you very much for making that point. You're so welcome. Follow the money, of course, right, Dr. Ace? Clive DeCarly on your show. Yeah, Jenna, we have. He was the guy, wasn't he the guy that, he's the longest living lung cancer survivor, I think. Was that him? We had him on the show, I think, years ago. Ben, great to have you here. Glad you caught the live show as well. I use blue blocking glasses and they work quite well, Barbara says. Yeah, guys, visit our sponsors if you would. I'd really appreciate that because this is how we do the show. Free for everyone is our sponsors. And it's really a win-win for everyone, you know, because these are products I use and these are products and companies I want to support and they're doing good work. And you get a free show, so you don't have to, you know, pay to get access to any of these shows. And you get a great product and they get to make, you know, it supports their work and then it supports us to do our work. So next time you're going to go to shop on Amazon or fortunately they've not kicked us out of Amazon yet. So if you shop on Amazon, go to our website, think about the work that we do and just click over from extremehealthradio.com and that would support the work that we do. And nothing changes on your end. The prices are the same. Everything's the same. But when you click over, we'll get a little commission for your sale, for your purchase there. So, yeah, blue blockers are so key, so key. I think it's probably one of the most underrated things for health is blocking blue light, and not a lot of people are really thinking about it. They're obsessed with the food they're eating, but blue light is so damaging for our mitochondria that people don't realize it. Someone had to do an inspection in my house and he wanted everyone to put a mask on in my house. Oh my gosh. Ben says, yes, people think I'm obsessed or whatever, but I'm striving to uphold the truth. Well, good job, Ben. I appreciate that. Me too, man. Me too. Barbara says, I'm not nuts, just healthy. Sheesh. So what if I bring my own food to your wedding, birthday, etc.? Barbara, I've been there before. Totally been there. I started reading into fraudulent medical science 16 years ago and had some nice doctors on some fitness forums show me how to read the research and pointed out how to find the manipulations. Interesting, Sam. That's interesting. That would be good to know how to find the manipulations in these research articles. That'd be great. Just know, my friends, that there's a war of information going on, and the censorship is real. It really is. And I don't know how long we're going to be on YouTube. I don't know. We're doing some other things. We're putting all these videos into the academy in case we do get completely deplatformed, which is happening a lot. And you know that they're deplatforming people and they're calling, fake news on, if Facebook's putting their fact checkers on there who are not even real fact checkers, you know that they're really concerned about information and people learning with the truth. So keep sharing some things, guys. Keep sharing. All right, guys. Well, have a great weekend, all right? Try to stay sane. Try not to go crazy. Try to protect your internal environment. Try not to be fearful. Get outside. Get some full spectrum sunlight. Drink good water. Help other people. Connect to your mission. Laugh with friends. Eat some dinner. Enjoy yourselves, And try not to look too much at social media and all the negativity going on out there. Do your best to protect your internal environment. And do your best to focus and appreciate that which is right in front of you. And right now, in front of me is a great life, And so it's really important for us to focus on things that we can focus on and focus on things that are good and will uplift us. So focus on those things. Focus on the good things. All right, guys. Love you all. Again, make sure to check out the show page for today's show, extremehealthradio.com/667. Come join us inside the Extreme Health Academy. I would really appreciate that. I think you will too. It's the best money you're going to spend. We're constantly upgrading it. New courses every single month. Workshops. We're going to do a whole mineral thing with Morley Robbins here pretty soon on the root cause protocol. I'm considering doing something with Mary Tocco about vaccines. It's going to be awesome. And we've got hundreds of hours of content, a really active community. I'm in the forums every single day helping as many people as I possibly can. And I don't have all the answers. I've just been exposed to a heck of a lot of information over the years since 2003. So we're all coming together and helping each other. So I really appreciate you guys. Come join the Academy, extremehealthacademy.com, and then type in the code EHR14 for a free 2-week trial. I'd love to see you in there, guys. I would really love to see you in there. Thank you again. Make sure to share our show if you can on Instagram, on Facebook, tag a friend. Consider just grabbing the link to this YouTube video and sharing it to your Facebook friends or tagging us, in a post on Instagram. Help get the word out if you can. I'd really appreciate that. That would be really, really great. All right, guys. Love you so much. You guys are amazing. You are just great. Thank you again for just being here on the live show. It's so much fun. Next week we have Chris Work from Chris Beat Cancer. That'll be a great show, and that's going to be an awesome show, and I can't wait to have him on. That's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll talk about his journey in overcoming colon cancer naturally. Really, really great in his whole cancer, Square One cancer program that he's got going right now. So love you guys all. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next Friday, 10:45 a.m. And if you're an Academy member, I'll see you at 9 a.m. on next Friday with our live call. All right, guys, love you so much and have a great weekend.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog, or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only, and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.